Good evening and welcome to the fifth installment of our Beyond the Label series. I'm Hannelie Brönner, owner of Edublox Durbanville and program manager of Edublox National. And I'm happy to be bringing you this series. Now, in the previous ones, we've mainly focused on memory. We've looked at the whole process of memory, where information comes in from the environment through your senses, how you then give attention to some of the information that's important and take that to your short-term memory, where it's kept for up to a minute or so. You're then processing the information with your working memory and storing it into your long-term memory, from which we can retrieve it later on. Now, for the last few sessions, we've mainly looked at the short-term memory, and we've looked at long-term memory, procedural memory and semantic memory in particular. But all through that, we mentioned that not only are the memory important, but these other skills are extremely important for us to remember and learn successfully. And one that we're looking at today is attention. Now, attention is extremely important for learning. You can see that it's almost right at the beginning of the process here, that once you input information and once the senses bring that into you, first you need to give attention. So if attention is broken, the whole memory system is broken. So it's a very important topic to discuss. Now, we looked at some activities that we can do that will grab learners' attention at the beginning of a lesson. We've also looked at strategies that teachers can use in lessons to gain the children's attention by making learning more interesting, making it interactive, practical, multisensory, and also to show that learning is important. So linking it as much as possible to real life experiences. And most learners respond really well to these strategies. Some learners, however, really struggle to concentrate regardless. Tonight, we're looking at what are those reasons, and we're looking at how can these learners be helped. Now, one of the main reasons are poorly developed concentration skills. Now, to concentrate is surprisingly a skill. To be able to learn, we need to first of all focus on the work at hand, be selective in what we concentrate on. So we can't concentrate on everything. We have to be able to filter distractions out around us and focus on the information that's important. So if you just look at this little example where you have all the different colors and words in the background, and you are trying to focus on that little text in the middle. Not easy, is it? Now, for children that struggle with concentration, focusing on their learning to the exclusion of the distractions around them is extremely difficult. So that's a skill that needs to be developed. Next, we need to sustain our attention. So the teacher has taught, they've set you your task, and within 5 minutes, some children will start looking through the window, find reasons to sharpen their pencils, drop something on the floor, because they struggle to sustain their attention. Now, research says that children should be able to focus for at least 20 minutes without any interruptions. So that's a skill that we need to definitely work on for children that struggle with concentration. The next skill is divided attention. Now, we have our little colors and words again, and you will see that the word, for example, purple, is put into red, yellow is put into blue. So when you look at this and you want to read it, you need to give attention to both the color and the color that's written to be able to read it correctly. So intuitively, we would like to read the first one, purple, as red. So to be able to read it as purple, we need to be able to do two types of attention at the same time. And that is what we call divided attention. The ability to, in the old days, multitask, so focus on different things at the same time. Then you need to also be able to alternate your attention. Now, alternating attention is very important, particularly if you are copying from the board. So you're listening to the teacher while they're teaching, and at the same time you have to copy from the board and then look at the board, look at your page, look at the board, look at your page. But also particularly if you're busy with one task and then you need to change your attention to a different task, and at a later stage come back and continue the same task. So for example, I've got this example of a comprehension test. The teacher sets a test, you're working on it, the teacher is marking your maths test, calling you to the front to the desk to discuss your test and look through all your corrections. And then you need to return to your table and carry on with a comprehension test. Now, some children find that very difficult. They can sustain their attention for a while, but the moment something interrupts it, they struggle to get back to it. Another reason why children might struggle with concentration is that they may have difficulties in processing, memory, and logical reasoning, and therefore be kind of misdiagnosed with ADHD and ADD just based on the symptom, which is a lack of concentration, when actually the root cause of it is not the chemicals in the brain that cause ADHD and ADD, but instead it is the skills of processing, the skills of memory, and the skills of logical reasoning that has not been embedded. I'm going to just give you an example. If a child struggles with processing, they might read, and they might read extremely slowly, struggle to get through all the questions that they have to do, so therefore their task is incomplete. What does a teacher say? You haven't done work completion. That means you've not been concentrating, you've not been giving attention. So we think that there's a concentration difficulty. Similarly, you give instructions, the child has poor memory. They can't repeat or execute the instructions. And what do you say? You didn't listen. You're not interested. Your attention wasn't with me. So what do? We say that there's concentration difficulties, and actually the child struggles with their auditory memory. So we need to be aware of all those other reasons why a child might struggle with concentration. Now, why does so many children struggle these days? A lot of parents ask me and say, but in all our days, it wasn't like this. There weren't so many children that struggle with concentration. My nephew's class, almost 50% of the children are on ADHD medication, which is a really scary statistic. Now, one of the reasons is that the South African education system no longer includes training in the critical foundational skills. Curriculum starts earlier and earlier and earlier. Now, if you think about the olden days, before technology, we did lots of rhymes, songs, etc. But now, television, electronic gaming, smartphone usage takes over that personal time with our children. And it also causes that children no longer need to use their imagination. They don't read a book and have to think about how the characters look and try to imagine the scenery it's set in. The TV kind of just gives everything to you. And then the same with their games. That's extremely visual, which means that the children get bored with things that are on paper. And then, of course, in the olden days, we had to remember from one episode to the next before streaming. We had to remember that we watched this episode, and next week we're watching the next episode. Whereas these days, you just watch episode after episode after episode with the streaming. And fewer parents read with their children. So children lose out on having the same story read out to them over and over and over again, so it becomes part of their long-term memory and part of their almost life experience. And that all causes children to struggle to concentrate. There's much less reason for them to concentrate these days. Okay, now if your child has poor concentration skills or struggles with memory processing and logical reasoning, Edublox can help you to develop those skills in your child. Edublox is a scientifically developed program. It targets the key cognitive skills for reading, spelling, maths, as well as learning generally. So if your child struggles, please contact us, make an appointment. And just for information, we don't just work with children that struggle. We also work with children that wants to accelerate their learning and just wants to get better at academically and exceed their potential, so to speak. So our program makes smart learners even smarter. Now, we can't always do that with the cognitive skills training alone. Sometimes a child might need some natural supplements to help them concentrate better. And I'm not going to speak about that. We're going to hand over to a representative of Flordis, our next speaker for this evening. I'm sure Valerie will introduce her, so I won't do that now. But together with the cognitive skills training, as well as natural supplements, you can have a very powerful combination to help your child that battle with concentration skills. Often the first call is to get medication. Now, medication is important. For some children, it will definitely be needed. And we will also be looking at the medication route in our next webinar series, which will start next year in February. So please do watch out for that. But for this evening, we want to look at that first response. And your first response should be to exhaust all the other avenues, including cognitive skills training and natural supplements. So I'm going to leave you here and hand over to Flordis. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hannelie. I'm going to hand over to Reinet Saunders now. She's the representative from Flordis SFI. Reinet, thank you very much. You can take it away from here.
Thank you very much, Valerie. It's great to be here tonight with all of you. And what a wonderful opportunity to get to learn how we can actually assist our children to learn better and to be more effective and be more confident with their learning. Okay, so tonight then I have the privilege to tell you a little bit more about natural options or natural solutions for learning. And first of all, I'm going to look at keen mind. But before we get to that, it's important to look at a few factors that influence the ability to learn. First of all, the quality of working memory, which was already mentioned by Hannelie, and then the concentration of focus we discussed. Very important in learning is the ability of a child to read and spell. Their language and vocabulary plays an important role. And also something like executive functioning, which enables a child with planning, time management, self-management, even the ability to switch between tasks. And then we see more and more the role of emotional sensitivities, anxiety, that hinders the ability of the child to learn. Sleep, diet, lack of physical exercise, as well as hyperactivity and impulsivity plays an important role. So what is the role of the working memory? That, as we've seen already, allows a child to pay attention, to recall information, to store and manipulate that information. And it is an important component of the executive functioning and essential for problem solving. It enables also the memorizing of instructions in a classroom situation. And without that, you're going to struggle to complete classroom activities, and it will look like poor attention, easily distracted, and also a child will find it difficult to understand and acquire new skills and knowledge. So if we get a little clinical, the chemical that is involved in controlling the working memory is called acetylcholine. It's a neurotransmitter. Now, a neurotransmitter is basically that chemical that plays a role in transferring the messages through the brain and from one brain or nerve cell to the other. It also is important in the plasticity of the brain, which means that is the ability of the brain to change. Which enables it to form new connections in response to learning. And something else that it actually controls is it increases the responsiveness of the brain to the senses or sensory stimuli. So what a child will see or hear or touch will it will make it more able, or the child more able to form a proper attention response to that, that enables learning. And again, it plays a role in memory, and even an aspect of REM sleep. Then something I quickly just want to mention, the dopamine chemical in the brain is the one that is mainly targeted by the stimulant medications, the Ritalins, etc. And that plays an important role in concentration and motivational circuits also, but it does not improve learning or academic performance per se, because it does not influence the working memory as such. So if we look at an illustration of how the neurotransmission looks in the brain, it's basically like electrical messages or signals that moves from one neuron or nerve cell through to the other one in lightning fast space. And it also needs to transfer these messages across the gaps or the openings between the nerve cells. So there are a few things that can go wrong if everything isn't working smoothly. So in a more simplified way, we've got a very lightning fast, efficient courier service going on in the brain and the nerve cells that transfers the messages, process it, and take it to the right direction. So basically, if we can look at what is Keen Mind as such, then it is a natural, safe, cognitive enhancer or a brain supplement that contains a unique extract of Bacopa monnieri, which gives the optimal amounts of the right actives that target specific aspects in the brain or brain receptors to give exactly the right chemical balance so that the brain and concentration and memory can work well. It has a broad mechanism, so it acts on different aspects. First of all, then again, the acetylcholine, so the working memory, the serotonin, that is the calming chemical in the brain, and it also reduces cortisol levels, which means it helps the brain to cope better under chronic stress or pressure. So we talk about Keen Mind being an adaptogen. And in addition to that, it reduces inflammation in the brain and acts as a powerful antioxidant. There's a lot of research, 15 published clinical specific trials and 50 years of research. And to just simplify things in a nutshell, what does Keen Mind do? It improves calm focus, it improves concentration, it controls the optimal functioning of the working memory, which is your moment-to-moment working and understanding what's going on. It improves speed and accuracy of learning, and then it helps with understanding information better and better organizing or storing the information and more effectively recalling or remembering it. And coping better under stress. So if you learn better in pictures, this will actually help you to see what's happening inside the brain. So if you just cram information inside your brain and you don't have a good working memory, you'll find that everything is in there, but to get it out is like a chaotic cupboard where you can't find what you want to. Where what actually happens in a well-organized working memory that is supported by Keen Mind that works on that acetylcholine is a very well-organized storing of information that's much more easy and fast and effective to retrieve. There's also better mental control. Plus, in addition to that, we know with Keen Mind, there's reduced anxiety and a positive mood effect. And then the question is always, but how fast will Keen Mind work? I mean, I think some exams and evaluations is starting in September, so you really want effect as soon as possible. The good news is that with two different clinical studies, it was seen that within the first hour to 2 hours, if you give a loading task or a difficult task for the brain to do, there's already an improvement over the control group seen with Keen Mind. And the calming effect of Keen Mind, there's about a 25% reduction in anxiety that develops over a period of 12 weeks. And then what usually happens is most people and most children will find improvement within the first week. they should be able to start experiencing improvement. And after about a month, 80% of the benefits of Keen Mind will be visible, but there is continued improvement up to 12 weeks, where you can see that there is a really a profound improvement over the control group or the placebo group. And this test has been done with a very objective, authoritative method of a computer assessment of tests, which was given. And based on that, you can actually see very clearly improvements or no improvements in memory. And this is used widely across the world for memory tests. So we have a very objective measurement of the outcome of Keen Mind. And a very recent study that was done also with Keen Mind in 2021 and published was with 6 to 14 year old boys. They were actually all ADHD, and they tested a variety of different things. So firstly, the results showed that Keen Mind improved cognition, working memory, and executive functioning again, which is really good because with children that struggles with attention and ADHD, they usually also have difficulty with managing themselves and controlling and planning their studies, etc. Sleep routine also and anxiety improved, as well as self-assessed mood and self-image. But behavioral symptoms similar to the kind of things that you would want to improve with Ritalin, etc., where you have got absolute control, does not improve on Keen Mind. That was actually expected because we know, as I've mentioned before, that Keen Mind does not act on the dopamine levels like the stimulants does. So it's not going to switch off hyperactivity and impulsivity as such, but again, it works on the acetylcholine and the working memory that helps this whole process of storing, recalling, remembering, and functioning better. Of course, there's also another natural clinical alternative to stimulants available called Equizen. Equizen is the only omega-3 available in South Africa that has been shown to give real results in changing and improvement in learning behavior and attention deficiency in children. It contains a unique ratio of essential fatty acids that's exactly according to what the research has shown is necessary for the brain to give this improvement, containing EPA, DHA, and GLA. The EPA influences the mood and the behavior within the brain function, and it also supports the signaling or the transfer of messages in the brain. The DHA supports the formation or the structure of the brain, and is a very important part of the matter or the cells in the brain. GLA has got unique anti-inflammatory properties, and that is actually also important because ADHD as such is driven by chronic inflammation as one of the mechanisms. So what has Equizen been shown to actually improve? There is a variety of learning capabilities that improves with Equizen significantly, such as the ADHD symptoms, as we've mentioned. The one that improves the most is attention. So inattention reduces, attention improves, and then a very significant improvement on reading abilities and spelling abilities in children that is behind in their milestones. So there has been shown to be a 9-month growth in 3 months' time for reading ability, and simultaneously a 6-month growth in 3 months' time for spelling ability over the control groups with Equizen. And also even in mainstream children, which already are at their chronological age in reading and spelling, the reading comprehension improved with 64%, going beyond what the expectation was. And another outcome with Equizen that's brilliant is it improves behavior and anxiety problems. And that has been tested in different clinical studies with different measuring instruments. The latest study was actually one that was in younger children, and they used the Children's Behavior Checklist, which is a very objective, compiled and authoritative list of different behaviors that has shown improvement over the control group again, and very definitely in anxiety. Also, language development and organization of language and understanding of the language improved, together with motor skills. So you'll find motor skills, handwriting, coordination, balance, and spatial awareness improved also with Equizen. So if we can just bring it all together, when we want to support brain function and learning, it's important what you choose. Your real results will come from well-researched sources, and proven safety, efficacy, and quality is essential for a successful product. So success does not come by chance, but by choice. And with what you have been offered tonight, I think in terms of the skills and the tools and the processes that Edublox offer is brilliant. And when you, I want to say, marry that together with a brilliant natural product with good results, you've got a winning combination. Thank you very much for your time.